Guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Supernatural, metaphysical, paranormal. You know, all those things you've been wondering about? Are you ready to go deeper into the realms of the unknown? I hope you've got your walking shoes on, because life is an adventure, and this is the journey. Come on, let's go. Hello and welcome to the show, everyone. I'm Jen Cruz, your host tonight, and this is the Journey Radio Show. We are showing up as the She-Squatchers again tonight because we're going to be talking about Bigfoot and other cryptids. So I've got my trusty teammate on the line. Hey, Jena, are you there?
I am here. I'm happy to be here yet again. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Yay. Awesome. Well, we have an exciting show planned for you tonight. We've got Thom Cantrall coming on with us tonight, and he's coming to talk to us about his over 60 years of research into Bigfoot. That's just an insane number of years to me. And I can't wait to learn all he has to share with us tonight. Let me tell you a little bit about Thom. Thom Cantrall is a fifth-generation son of the West. His great-great-grandmother was 7 years old when she walked from St. Joseph, Missouri to Oregon City, Oregon, with her family in 1851, a distance of 1,930 miles. He has been an avid researcher and prolific writer on the subject of Sasquatch in the Pacific Northwest, having published several well-received books on the subject. Thom began his interest in the subject over 60 years ago when a cat skinner returned to work on his Northern California road building site to find a trackway of 16-inch long bipedal humanoid footprints around his machine. His subsequent experiences on Washington's Olympic Peninsula served to enhance and strengthen this interest, leading to a lifetime spent learning about these magnificent creatures. How exciting. Well, let's not delay any further. Hey, Thom, are you there?
I am.
Awesome. We're so excited to have you join us tonight.
Well, I'm pretty excited to be here.
Yes. Well, I can't remember if I told Jena or not. I had told her a little bit about you yesterday when I was telling her how excited I was to have you on the show. And I can't recall if I told her that you are in Washington State and that we'll get to meet you during the Sasquatch Summit when we go to speak there in November.
That will be exciting.
It will be.
Thrilled. Yeah. So we're gonna have a familiar voice anyway.
You can cheer us on, right, Thom?
Absolutely. I always do that. I've made every one of the summits since Johnny started them, and I've spoken at several. I don't remember how many. I'm old, but but it's a great venue. It's part of the Indian Casino there. It's a beautiful place right on the ocean. You'll absolutely love it. I guarantee you, and they will love you.
Aw, thank you. We sure are excited, and it sounds so wonderful. And the greatest thing is we'll be able to meet you, so then I can put a name to the face and the face to the personality. So that'll be exciting.
That's always fun, isn't it?
It is so much better than texting and emailing.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right.
And I've never been to Washington State before, so this is going to be a first for me. I'm super excited to come out there.
Well, you'll be on the wet side. I can guarantee you in November it's going to rain, okay? You're in a part of the state that the only way you tell the difference between winter and summer is that in summer the rain's warmer.
Hey, that's better than the snow we get in Minnesota.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I swear, though.
Oh, yeah. I spent a week in Minnesota one night. I know what you mean.
A week? One night?
Yeah.
That's what it feels like when it's storming here.
Oh, yes.
That's
yeah,
funny.
I have spent some time in Minnesota, so I do know a bit about the state. My best buddy when I was in the Navy lived there, and I went home with him a couple of times. So
Oh.
I spent a little time there, but that was back in, you guys weren't, oh, yeah. Well, let's put it this way. I've got socks older than you guys.
I don't know.
I started in this, like you were saying, 61 years ago. It's been 3 days since the anniversary of that event. On August 25th, 1958, Jerry Crew was working as a cat skinner building road in Northern California. And as a matter of fact, he was building the roads that Bob Gimlin and Roger Patterson were driving 9 years later when they were camped there and when they found Patty. But
Wow.
they were working in camp. It was a long ways from town. So what they do, they'd stay there for the week and then go home on Friday night, come back Monday morning. When they came back Monday morning, here was a set of tracks that came down off a 75-degree slope. Okay, walked up the road, walked around his cat, and then around another one, and on up the road, then disappeared over the bank. And that story, after, well, it was actually almost a month and a half later, on the 6th of October, it was, there was a newspaper article in the Humboldt Times newspaper out of Eureka, California, written by Andrew Genzoli, and that was picked up by the wire services, and I saw it, and it lit a fire in me that's been burning for 61 years now. In that article, Andrew Genzoli used for the first time in print the word Bigfoot. That's where
a
the
little
name
piece
came
of history right there.
from. Yeah, it is. And I was 15 years old at the time. So if you add those up, you can figure out how old I am now, so I don't have to tell anybody. But
Oh, I'm no good with math, Tom, so we're all safe here.
I'm glad. This is one point I'm glad.
You are so cute, Tom. I just think you're so fun. You're so cute.
Well, at about 13 years old, I learned I could make people laugh. And that was a dangerous thing to learn as a young teenager.
You were a problem in school, weren't you?
Only to the teachers.
Oh.
No, and then after that, of course, I didn't graduate high school till 61. Then I spent from then till 1970 in the Navy. Not much chance to do much research there other than read. And believe me, I read everything that Dr. Ivan Sanderson wrote. And if you want some background in this field, read his books. The man was a genius. He had like 5 doctorates. He wrote 13 books on what we call paranormal stuff now. At that time, they just called them unknown primates. But in 1970, I got out of the Navy in Washington. The Navy had transferred me here in 68. And I started college and got a degree in logging engineering. I did a lot of work, consulting work, and working out on the Olympic Peninsula and doing a lot of what we call bridge site surveys in the state of Washington. If you're going to build a road that crosses a stream used by anadromous fish, salmon, steelhead, those that migrate to sea, you have to have a permit from the state. In order to get that permit, you have to submit a plan, and they would hire me to do that plan. So I would hike back in. It may be 3 miles, maybe 7 miles to where the proposed stream crossing was, and do the survey, plan it all out, then write up the report for the company. And it was at this time that I started seeing these guys, because very early on I learned that the last thing you want to do is hike back in 4 or 5 miles, do your survey, hike back out, be writing it up and drawing it up, and find out you forgot to write down a measurement and have to hike back in 4 or 5 miles for one measurement.
Oh,
That
goodness.
that ruins your whole day. So what I'd do is I would sit down on the bank after I got everything that I thought I needed and just do a rough drawing. And sitting there in the rain, as you can imagine, doing this rough drawing, and all of a sudden here'd be its eyeball peeking around a tree at me. And they do a little up-down whistle. It's just a type thing. And for years I heard this. I probably heard it 150 times and just attributed it to some type of bird that I had never classified yet. It wasn't until 2010 in Eugene, Oregon, I was at the Oregon Sasquatch Symposium, and Ron Moorhead was speaking, and he was playing his Sierra Sounds tapes. I don't know if you've ever heard those, but
Yes, we
they,
have.
they are a must. Okay, they're required reading. There will be questions on the final off those tapes, I guarantee you. On track 7, there's that whistle, and I almost screamed out in the middle of his talk that that's what that is. I learned how many years later, 30 years, 40 years later, that that's what that was.
I bet you were just stunned to find that out. Like, when you don't know certain things about Bigfoot and then all of a sudden they happen to you and then you find out.
Yes. See, and
Yeah.
that's what happened. I had, for over 30 years, I never even told my family what I was doing because all they wanted to do was make fun of it. And I was having some really profound experiences, but I wasn't able to correlate them. It wasn't until after 2010 I had an incident happen that brought me together with some other people. And since then, I've been able to correlate what I've learned. So here I was sitting there with 50 years of facts, and then in the last 10, I've been able to put them together somewhat. The one thing that's taught me more than anything else is that I don't know anything yet. Every time I learn something new, I find out that opens the door to a million things that I don't know yet.
Well, definitely. That's science. Every question leads to how many more?
You're right. Always. And my mind's kind of, I'm curious about everything. And I love mysteries. And I especially love solving mysteries. And now that I've had to learn just to accept the fact it's a mystery. My next book, the one I'm working on now, I'll probably finish this winter, is entitled that, Sasquatch, From Myth to Mystery. And
I like that.
because that's what
I do
they've done.
too.
That's what they've done. They've gone from being a myth to being a mystery. I know a lot about them, but I know a lot more, don't know a lot more about them. It's just, and it's such a fascinating field. They are so fascinating to follow. I'll tell you one thing, they have a sense of humor that's out of this world.
Oh, I need to hear about that.
Well, you have never been laughed at till you had a 9 foot 3 inch, 675 to 700 pound individual laugh at you. Okay.
Tell the
You can
story.
imagine. Can you imagine the size of his lungs and an echo chamber in his throat? And you've done something that tickled him, and he laughs.
What did you do?
I laugh back. What else are you gonna do?
Well, what did you do to make him laugh?
I said something that was dumb.
What did you say?
I don't remember something, but Oh, I had brought a box of apples and a box of grapes for them, and I asked if he wanted me to leave them. And we got to remember we're standing about 12 feet apart at this time. And this guy, like I said, is 9'3" tall. He's over 5 foot across the shoulders.
Wow.
He is absolutely massive. And I'm standing there looking at him, okay? And in my mind are coming these thoughts, these words, these sentences. The first time I had ever experienced what you'd call, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, but it's a form of telepathy. But it's a remote speaking, and it's in my mind. And I asked him, I said, "Do you want me to leave this for you?" And he said, "Well, I just can't remember exactly how it went, but it was something to the effect it tickled him that that he would think I needed to feed him."
Oh,
and I suppose he probably got that size on his own pretty well.
yeah. Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, it was. It was, at the, like I said, that's been 9 years ago. It was 25th of September, 2010 when that happened.
Oh, wow. So that was 2010. That was only 9 years ago. How exciting.
Yeah, yeah. And that was the beginning of when I could start correlating facts, was the information
Nice.
I got from him. And yeah, his name is Akanisha, and he's an ancient. He's got a red stripe that runs from the point of his left shoulder across his chest to just above his right hip. So he has the nickname of Red Stripe, and that's what I called him for some time. I kept asking his name, and a red stripe will do, red stripe will do, and that's fine. Finally, when he gave me his name, now I can tell you and refer to him to you as Red Stripe, but talking to him, I have to use his name.
Very interesting.
Isn't that an interesting point?
Very.
Yeah, that story is in about the third book I wrote. It's called Sasquatch: The Search for a New Man, and it has that encounter of meeting him and how that happened.
Was that your first encounter with him?
That was the first encounter with him. Yes. Mm-hmm. It was not my first encounter with Sasquatch. That had been going on since 1971. I think was the first time that I was face to face with one. But I've just been so blessed with. Somebody's moving finally on this screen. I can see them. But I've been blessed, very blessed with the experiences that I've had. But it's taken, I guess I'm not as quick a learner as I like to think I am, because it's taken me a long time to be able to do the things, to learn the things that I needed to learn in order to get to the position I am now. And now it's almost too late, so to speak. But it's been a marvelous trip, I guarantee you. Learning about them and sharing it with others that's why I'm alive.
That's beautiful. So now, if we ever make it up in your area, would you ever consider introducing us or maybe taking us out?
I could take you out. I can't guarantee anything. It's always up to them.
Okay.
But
that would be awesome.
But where you're going to be in November is right in the middle of them. I mean, right in the middle of them. Okay. There's the little town of Ocean Shores there. They come right into town there. And yeah, I don't know if you know Barb Shoop, Squatching with Barb and Gabby. Have you seen her videos?
No.
Oh, you need to look that up. Get on YouTube, Squatching with Barb and Gabby. Now it's Squatching with Barb and Goldie. we lost Gabby last year, and she got a little puppy here this spring, and so but her partner Sandy lives in Ocean Shores, and normally has a gathering there, and I'll get you guys invitations to that if you'd like. But they have spotted them right in town.
Wow, that's fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So maybe we'll see some action just right outside of our hotel. We'll just look
You could.
outside and
You-
wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah, yeah. Your hotel will look right out over the ocean. You watch the whales.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Now
think-
I'm super excited.
The gray whales will be migrating then, and you can watch them as they're going down the coast from Alaska back to Mexico.
I'm so much more excited now. I mean, I was super excited before, but those are sceneries I love.
Mhm.
I have never seen a whale in person. I've seen porpoises and things like that, but I've never seen a whale in person.
I had never had either till I got up here, till the Navy transferred me here. Go out salmon fishing and have a pot of killer whales surface around you. That's cool. When they come up and broach right next to you.
Did you say what were you doing in the water when they came around you?
So, fishing. Salmon
Oh, fishing.
Yeah.
For some reason in my head I was thinking you were surfing, and I was like, wait a minute. So
Oh,
so sorry.
the salt water never gets above 54 degrees here, so you don't do much surfing.
Oh, that's a
There
little
will
chilly.
be no swimming.
No.
Darn
But-
it.
They do, scuba dive, but they have the best of gear to do it because it is cold water.
I hear you.
Mhm.
Okay. Awesome. Well, could you tell us about, 60 years is a lot of time, so I'm hoping that you can think of your favorite experiences that you could share, just a few of them with us.
Every one of them is a favorite experience at the time.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that.
I live for those experiences. It's just unbelievable. Probably some of my favorite. I have two research partners. The one lives in Canada and the other one lives on the border. And we did a 5-year study on glyphs and structures in BC, Canada. And that area where we worked there was very active clan. I mean, there were, I think I got to see face to face like 18 different Sasquatch in that area over that 5 years. I got to watch the birth of twins. That was probably the number one thing that ever happened to me in my life. That's more exciting to me than the birth of my own kids. Because you can see that anytime, but not many people get to see the birth of twins.
So you can't talk about that and not tell us anything about it. So what happened in that certain situation? My goodness. So you were there during a birth?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, let us. Yeah, we want to know. So does everybody else.
It was almost like a royal birth, and I'm not sure that it wasn't. The mother I had known before. I got to meet her face to face once, but and she's very unusual. Her hair looks like she's been to a beauty shop. It's cut flat like a flat top, and she has blue eyes. She's the only one I've ever seen that has blue eyes, and she just that's the story in itself. A group of us, my two research partners and a friend and another couple were there, and I think it was spring of the year, March or April it was. And I knew that she wanted me alone so she could show herself to me. Her name is Raja Se, and she's the daughter of the clan leader there. And so even then, this has been a few years ago, I was walking with the use of a walker. So I had one with rubber inflatable tires so that I could go on some pretty rough ground. Well, we had started up this little trail, and the rest of the group wanted to go up the trail to the end. There's a tank up there, and there's always structures of some type around that tank. And I got to a level spot there. I said, I'll just wait right here for you. You guys go ahead. Well, then it was, well, maybe we shouldn't. No, go ahead, because I knew that was where I was supposed to be, and I was supposed to be there alone. And it took about 10 minutes to convince them to go ahead. They went on, and they just got around the curve in the trail and out of sight. And I heard that whistle again. Of course, this time, when I heard it, I was looking around to see what was going on. But I looked around, and by this big rock, she stepped out from behind this rock, and I got to see her. She didn't say anything. She didn't even make a motion, but I got to see her, and then she disappeared behind the rock again. That's the mother. The father came from Oklahoma. He's a very, very tall individual. He's over 10 feet tall, but he was very slender. But he was very young at that time too, so he may not have been filled out. And so they mated. And that's one thing you've got to remember. When they mate monogamously, and they mate for life. And people have a tendency to anthropomorphize. They want to think of them in our terms. They defend the territory. No, they don't. Okay, they live in a general area, and a clan will inhabit a general area, but they hunt and fish cooperatively. They pass back and through one another's areas regularly. They do not think like we do. That's one thing a person has to understand. They do not defend an area. Just look at these items. They're not acquisitive. They don't acquire things. Okay. Yeah, they'll use a tool for the job it's doing, but it'll be laid right back down again. They don't carry it with them. They mate monogamously, and they mate for life. Okay. They understand spirituality. Okay. They're not religious in the way that humans can be, but they do understand spirituality. They, I mentioned, they're not territorial. And if you took those four things out of our history, how many wars have you avoided?
That's a point.
About all of them. Okay. Now it appears to me, from what I've learned about them, is that what one knows, they all know. Knowledge is a shared thing, unlike us who tend to hoard our knowledge. Most people do anyway. So when I was invited to participate in this event, I, of course, there was no saying no at all. I was going. Got to be
Tom?
there. Yes.
Tom, we're at half the show. We have to take a commercial break, so I'm going to put that story on hold, and we're going to come right back to that after our break. So stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back with Thom Cantrall. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So I think we're on break. I'm going to be right back. So Jena, I'll be right back.
Oh yes, I have plenty to ask. Okay, so I absolutely love your story. You're doing a fabulous job, by the way. I was going to ask you, I'm so excited to hear the rest of your story. How did you find out exactly where they were from? Like, how did you know he wasn't? And this is something you could maybe talk about too on the radio.
What do you mean?
Um, like you said, this one Bigfoot was from another area and he traveled.
That's another totally other story. Another story.
Okay.
But I could get into that. But let's finish this one. We can talk about how that works, how they take a mate.
Yeah, that's so. Just out of curiosity, what do you feel? How do you feel like they're traveling? Do you think that there is a woo side, or do you think they're a flesh and blood?
They are flesh and blood. Akenisha told me we have no powers that you did not at one time have. Okay. When you talk about telepathy, for example, about 35,000 years ago, we stopped adapting to our environment and started adapting to our environment, started adapting our environment to us.
Okay, wait, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Tom, I have a feeling we're probably going to be coming back here soon, so we need to be quiet.
Okay.
You're right. 30 seconds. Ten. And roll.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is the Journey Radio Show. And when we are not live on the air, you can find us online at thejourneyradioshow.com. And hey, we're the She-Squatchers. Why don't you check out our website at SheSquatchers.com? And right there at the top of the page, you're going to see a link. You can go right to our Facebook page. Would you please come on over and give us a like and follow us there? That's where we post all of our up-to-date what's going on with us. And also, check out our events page for where we're going to be. We've been traveling around the country this year, coast to coast, and we'd love to meet every one of you. And you can check to see if we're coming to a place near you. So please do check that out. Tonight, we've got a very special guest. Thom Cantrall is with us, and he's sharing stories from his 60 years of research into Bigfoot. So let's get back to the story he was sharing with us. Thom.
Okay, where was I? You have to remember, I'm old. I forget easily. We were talking about the birth of the twins. Okay,
Yes.
I knew where I was supposed to go. I went there. It was, like I said, it was almost like a royal birth. There was a court in attendance, and there was these 18 male sasquatch that I was with. Okay, and I got there was one female. I think it was Roger State's mother that was in attendance with her. As the baby was born, they took it down to the creek and washed it. Okay, came back, and I thought that was pretty cool. I was kind of waiting to see whether it was male or female, and because from where I was, it was a ball of fur. Okay, and then all of a sudden they're going to the creek again, and what's going on here? And finally realized it was twins. They were going to wash the second one, and then they turned and showed the whole group the twins, and those Aranaya and Ananaya were their names. And I got to see them one time after that when they were about 6 months old, and I haven't seen them since. I'm going back to BC in about 3 weeks, and health permitting, and I'm hoping to get a chance to see them again because they know I'm coming, and I really hope I can do that.
That is so incredible. I just can't believe what a great, relationship you have with them. Like, what kind of information are they giving to you for health and different, anything that you could share?
I wouldn't be alive today if it weren't for them. Okay,
Oh, wow.
That will be in the next book. Uh, but and this is witnessed. It's not something that you have to take my word on. There was a whole camp of people watched it go on. But we were southwest of Mount Hood in Oregon in the Cascade Range, and my heart was acting up. I was in bad shape. As a matter of fact, I was going home the next day because I couldn't handle it. And in the middle of the night, my research partner Sue was sharing my tent, and all of a sudden this buzzing starts, and it's buzzing right into my chest, right at my breastbone. And this went on. I thought it was 10 to 15 minutes. Sue said it was over 3 hours. This went on.
What?
Yeah, she says, she jumps up. She's, what's that sound? Where's it coming from? I said, it's coming right out of my chest. And we could hear them walking around outside the tent. And Sue did get out of bed and looked out the tent. But the difference it made, my heart's in atrial fibrillation 100% of the time. And sometimes it gets so far out of sync that they got to, manually get it back. That's what these guys did. That's what that treatment was. And
Wow.
the next morning, get up, walk out to the campfire. First guy that I run into says, what were you and Sue doing walking through camp talking this morning before daylight? We weren't. I never got out of bed. Sue did get out of bed, but she just looked out the door of the tent, but she never went outside. The next person that got up, how come you and Sue were talking in the middle of camp? There were 10 people in camp. 8 of them heard us walk through camp talking. Okay.
So they heard probably the Bigfoot is what you're insinuating.
Finally, I asked them, I said, what were we saying? Well, we couldn't understand the words, but you and Sue have very distinct voices, and we do. And we could understand with your voices, what they were doing. Sue and I never heard it, okay? But if we'd have heard our own voices, we'd have been out like a shot, okay? But we got looking, and there were tracks. Went right through the middle of camp and out the exit road. 2 sets of tracks. So they were walking through camp, talking, using our voices. And that 2 weeks later, I had another short session with it. I've had, again, it's all going to be chronicled in my last book, because this will be the last one I get to write. But it'll all be in there on that one. But what happened to me down in Georgia and camp there, and Bob Gimlin and I went down to Georgia 3 years ago together and talked about having a ball. We had 2 of them join us at the campfire in Georgia. And I love this story because I tell it and I always get the haters. They just, they come right to me. Well, if you're going to call me a liar on that one, you've just called 18 other people liars, including a judge from the state of Georgia. Okay,
Right.
They were all sitting there and all watched it, all saw it happen. But they were right behind me. 2 of them standing right behind me, right at the edge of the firelight, and I was looking across the fire, and there were 2 ladies there, and one of them's lips started quivering. And her finger came up pointing, and then I realized what happened. I looked back over my head, and there's 2 of them standing there, and they went back into the brush, and a couple of the people, well, actually 3 of the people followed them, and there were actually 3 of them. There was another one back in the brush too, and they let them catch up with them. So yeah, we've had some marvelous things that have happened to us. You were asking earlier, or on our break, about how the gentleman came from Oklahoma. They have as a group, as a people, they have, and make no mistake about it, they are a people. Okay, they're a human hybrid. They have a meeting twice a year, general meetings. Okay, that year was in Alberta, Canada. The whole area meets. Okay, that's when things like marriages are decided. Who's ready to take a mate, who's looking for a mate, who's going to have children this year. They only have children once every 7 years or so. If you're trying to stay hidden, the last thing you ever want to do is overpopulate. So they maintain their population very carefully. So children are about 7 years spaced. Okay. Rajase was ready to take a mate. There was a male in Oklahoma, eastern Oklahoma, that was also ready. As is the case, she went to his home area to meet, to see whether they were compatible. And then after they decided this was what they wanted to do, they came back to her area, which is also the normal thing that they do. And that, unless the male is ultra important to his clan, that's the modus operandi. The female will go to his clan for introduction and this introduction period, and then they'll move back to her clan to live. And that's what they did. They went from Oklahoma to British Columbia. And there's lots of other things that go on at that meeting, most of which, when I ask Akinisha, he says, that's not for you to know yet. So I just, I have a whole list of not for you to know yet.
I bet you do. Oh my gosh. I was just going to ask you, I know you talked about a specific way you speak. With animal communication, is it similar to that, do you think?
No,
or do you think it's...
No, I think they take your language right out of your mind.
Okay.
I think they can speak to a person speaking Spanish or Indian or anything, because it comes out of your own mind what your language is. I really think that's how it's done. I can't give you chapter and verse on that. But,
so when they speak to you, okay, so you're saying that they take it from your mind. Do you think that they're putting it in your, I mean, when they're communicating with you, do you think they're taking it from their mind and putting it in yours, basically sharing the energy?
That happens. So a lot of their communication is just, you get an idea. Something comes into your mind right now. I've got to do this. I've got to go there. I need to be here. Or you'll see a scene that you recognize, and I got to be there. And that just comes into your mind. There's no oral communication about it.
So it's kind of like being psychic, where you just get information. You're receiving this information. You can't really say where it's coming from, but you're communicating with someone. Right. Is that kind of how you feel?
That's what, yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. The difference is I've been doing it so long, I recognize it now when it happens.
Wow.
Maybe I'm wrong sometimes, but I'm right often enough that I keep doing it. It's, maybe I'm getting off with too deep here for most people, but it's a lot of years of doing this, and the feelings I get, and I tend to live my feelings. I don't hide them. I have nothing to gain from this whatsoever, and believe me, the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune that you get for what I've said tonight, the YouTube waves will be running wild again. But let me tell you this about that. My friend Arla, my mentor, lives in southeast Oklahoma. We are the poster children for the group, what is it, the Coalition for Reason and, and Doing It My Way is what I call them. Whenever they attack it, every time they attack us, and believe me, they do it regularly, every time they attack us, my book sales go up. So,
And that's what they say. What do they say? Any kind of publicity is good publicity when you're
yeah,
an
right.
author.
Yeah. I don't care what you say, just spell my name right. Yeah.
Right? Oh, that's funny. Yeah, just get my name right, please.
Yeah. And I laugh at that because, people accuse me of making a lot of money with books. Actually, I make enough to pay for the ones I give away,
That's about it.
Yeah. So it's not a big deal. It's just a way of getting the information out there in a mass media type thing.
Speaking of your books, how
Mhm.
are we supposed to be finding your books? Are those on Amazon?
They're on Amazon, all under my name, and they're also on my website. And that's ghostofrubyridge.com. And Ghost of Ruby Ridge was the title of my first book. So
Ghost of River.
Ruby Ridge. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry,
Ghost of-
I have.
Ghost of
I'm
RubyRidge.com.
Yeah, I'm supposed to get my new teeth tomorrow, so if I
Ooh.
so it's a little hard to talk sometimes.
Oh, no. Well, you've been sounding wonderful, Tom, so don't worry about that. So I'm so
Yeah.
excited. You've got so many stories. I just cannot wait to hear more. We were actually talking about how we thought they were definitely, or how you said they're definitely flesh and blood. Is there anything else that maybe you've come across that you want to get out there that you haven't gotten out there yet that you're not putting in a book?
Yes. First time I met Akinisha, I asked him, "What is your purpose in this? Why do you want to communicate with me and with my type of people?" He said, "For the first time in the history of man, you have the ability to destroy the world without firing a shot." Okay. The big news media thing is all about global warming and, cutting down trees destroys oxygen, right?
Mhm.
In fact, 80% of our oxygen doesn't come from the land. And if you cut down a tree, does it go bare? No, something else grows back immediately, and it photosynthesizes in exactly the same way that tree did. There is no change in oxygen level from the ground. But the ocean is where 80% of your oxygen comes from.
Wow.
And we are destroying the capital predators in the ocean. The great tuna, they don't know today if they quit fishing them entirely if they could recover. We're killing the sharks for their fins. When you take off the capital predators, it lets the lesser species bloom. The whole thing goes out of balance, and there goes your oxygen supply. And
So,
he said, in this, he said, "I do not understand human beings for one reason. They have no respect for where they live. They have no respect for one another. And worst of all, they don't even respect themselves." And he's absolutely.
that is exactly it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Where you sit and where I sit, 15,000 years ago, there was an ice sheet 2 miles thick. That's gone now. So is the earth warmer now than it was then? Obviously, or that ice would still be there. Okay. Were there any SUVs or coal-fired power plants then? There weren't any people then. What were there? 20,000, I think they figured 23,000 people in North America at that time.
Wow.
But also what there were no politicians with their own agendas. Okay. So, yes, global warming is real. Is it man-caused? Is it man-caused? No, it's not. Okay. That's the problem. But that gets away from Sasquatch, and that's what we're here to talk about. But that's
Oh
what he
no,
told me. That's what he
I'm re-
told me. That's
I'm actually really glad you brought it up because that's a great message to spread every day of our lives. Start respecting other people, and I mean for us to do.
mhm,
I need to start respecting other people. I need to start respecting myself. And what was the third one? Starting to respect the place
right.
you live.
That's
Earth.
right.
It's a beautiful place. And if we do
It is
destroy it, we're not going to have it to live in anymore.
exactly right. Exactly right. First thing we have to do is get our population under control.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if they can give you some tips, you write those down and we'll start it. We'll do something.
Have one child every 7 years.
Well, does China
I don't.
monitor?
Uh-huh.
Does. You're only
China
allowed to have
monitors how
one.
many children?
Yeah.
It used
Yeah.
to be 2, I thought, and then it went down to 1.
Yeah. I
It was
think it's
always
down to 1 now. But
wow.
I can tell the difference in my lifetime. Places that were unpopulated when I was your age versus what they are now.
Oh
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
cities growing, schools being put up, and
Yeah.
that's another thing.
Yeah.
Going back to Bigfoot, you had mentioned that Bigfoot started actually coming into cities and we've into towns and by people's homes, and we've been hearing this more and more about how they're getting a little bit more bold. What do you think about
Hmm.
that? Did they mention anything?
I don't know why they do it, but I know they do. There's a little 160, 180 acre natural park in the middle of Puyallup, Washington, which is just outside of Tacoma. And I can show you structures, I can show you tracks, I can take you in, and they use it regularly. Now, there's green belts between it and the mountains, which are just right there. But they're in and out of that all the time. So they're there. I know they can do things that would amaze you. It just boggles my mind the things they do.
Yeah. Oh, I
And
can't wait.
but it's just we've got to get our own act together. People,
Mhm.
the first thing and everybody asks me, can you show me one? No, but I can show you how to meet one. First thing, quit banging on trees and screaming in the night. Unless all unless you're happy with a scream back or a banging on a tree back, that's all you're ever going to get doing that. Okay? Take your chair, take your ice chest, your Kindle, and go out, find a place by a stream or by a lake. You guys shouldn't have any trouble finding a lake where you're quiet and nobody's bothering you. Open up your chair, park your butt, reach in your ice chest and grab a boiled egg, a chicken hip, and a Diet Pepsi. Open up your Kindle, read your book, eat your chicken and your egg, and drink your Diet Pepsi, and wait for them to get curious and come see what you're doing sitting there by yourself. They will do it. I guarantee you
I
they will
believe
do
you.
it. I learned that from the story I told you about as an engineer. Okay, I learned that that's what they're curious as can be. They will come in and they'll check you out. Okay,
So
when I got
when
older and couldn't get around anymore, I started doing it again, and it still works.
So a quick question for you. Now you're talking about men. What do you think about us doing a a female experiment with Bigfoot? All female
I
experiment.
I think that's wonderful. Barb and Gabby group I mentioned is 80% female.
Nice.
Our camp outs are 80 to 90% female, and they're just absolutely no problem at all. And strong women. It's all about strong women.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's not just physical body strength. That's mental
No,
too.
no,
You can't go out
I meant,
there.
yeah. You
Oh,
can't
okay.
be, you can't be scared. You can't be afraid. You've got to
Mhm.
overcome that. He told me the one thing we cannot work through is fear.
Mhm.
That's one of the
So
most,
when we go out there and we're singing and we're talking and we're doing our own thing, before we start researching. Is that something that they're going to see and be curious about, do you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We have drums and flutes that we take with us, and every time, and they'll come in every time.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, they're absolutely marvelous to be around. Even more marvelous to learn from. And
That's
believe me,
incredible.
they have a lot to teach us.
Oh, I am so willing to learn. I'm so ready for it.
Yeah. They are not aggressive. If you treat them with respect, you will be treated with nothing but respect, I guarantee you.
That's cool.
People see what they expect to see. If you got it in your mind that they're monsters, you're going to see a monster. Okay. What really tears my bottom are these people that saw one on the hillside 2.5 miles away, and a week and a half later, they're experts in everything about them. You know, get out there and do what Arla's done. Do what I've done. Do what Barb's group does. Do the Diane Fossey and the Jane Goodall thing. Sit down with them. Listen to them. That's how
communicate.
Ask it, communicate, yes. And first thing you have to do is learn to communicate, period.
Yeah.
Can I give a little plug? We have a conference coming up October 4th, 5th, and 6th in the Atlanta, Georgia area. And I'd sure like to see as many people there as can make it. We've got 13 great speakers coming in. Bob Gimlin's going to be there. I'm going to be there. Arla Williams is going to be there. Lady from Canada, Leanne Carnegie, has some of the greatest structures in the world in her area, and she's going to be there. Again, look at the ladies, okay? Half the speakers are ladies because they're strong.
Mm-hmm.
They have a good spirit. That's the thing. They have respect and they have a good spirit. You know, when I was teaching archery, I loved to teach ladies because you could explain something and look around and they were doing it. You know, you got some dude in there, and I've always done it this way. Yeah, and you've always been a lousy shot. So what's your point? Okay.
Hey, Tom, we've only got 1 minute left of the show. Do you want to give out a website for that conference that you were talking about?
Yes, www.ghostofrubyridge.com/SAS, SAS, and that has all the information on it.
Okay.
Has all the speakers, all the times, the venues, everything, and it's going to be fun. We're going to have a great time.
And what is the name of the conference?
ISPP, International Society for Primal People, which is my group, and it'd be the fourth international conference on Sasquatch in Atlanta, Georgia. It's actually in Douglasville, just west of Atlanta, but
Awesome.
It's in the Atlanta area.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight, Tom. It's been awesome having you. And thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you next week on Wednesday night. Thank you so much. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night, night.